Hello, Valerie. Tell people what the Queen of the Deuce is about.
Queen of the Deuce is about a woman called Shelley Wilson, who was a Greek Jew from Thessaloniki, the northern city of Athens, and who decided to leave Greece when she saw that the Nazis had invaded Poland in
Mm,
39. She had two children at the time, and she arranged for them to be you know, with her one with her husband and the other one with her secretary, and she took the last ship to the States, to New York City. And she wasn't so young. I mean, she was about 30 years old or something.
mm.
And she came as an immigrant. She came. I mean, I'm in Athens, but I'm from New York, so that's why I refer to it as. So she went to New York as an immigrant, and she just got whatever work she could get. She was very social, so she always was, meeting people and kind of finding her way around. And she started with a concession stand up in Upper Manhattan, and slowly worked her way to Times Square, where she also met her second husband, who was a projectionist. And she was always interested in entertainment. So she wanted to show films, and she rented a movie theater on 8th Avenue by 42nd Street. And she started by showing foreign films, art films, Italian, Russian, Greek, etc. And at some point, her neighbors said, Chelly, why are you doing this? I mean, you're not making any money. Why don't you just try some of, like the porn films? So she was always, like on alert for anything that was a good idea. So she said, okay, I'll do it. And she never looked back when she started showing. At the time was the 60s, so it was soft porn.
Right.
And but she always kept the Sunday screenings for the Greek films.
Mm.
And she went on, she bought the real estate that the movie theaters were in. She had about 8 movie theaters in the Times Square area, all showing porn. And then she opened a restaurant that was called the Mykonos, a Greek restaurant that had entertainment. I mean, she was quite a larger than life personality. She did get her children, back. She brought them back to New York, with her after the war. They were safe, luckily. So it's just a fascinating story of resilience and bravery, and someone who just took risks and would just go with it.
Yeah, like what I heard the premise of this documentary, I thought, wow, that's interesting. I just assumed that everyone was a man in this particular line of business. So and then I heard, Holocaust survivor, and I was thinking, wow, this must have been a pretty tough lady.
Very, very tough. But also she could be, she was very charismatic.
Hmm.
So on the one hand, she had that stern kind of, side to her, but she was also, she was magnetic. She would attract people to her. People were attracted to her. And she was very funny, very smart, sharp, funny, quick. And she was the type of person that didn't really, she would always curse, very foul mouth,
Hmm.
Greek and English. I mean, it didn't really matter. So yeah, I
Do you think
mean,
people miss the danger of the 70s New York, or partially wish they were a part of it for like a little bit at least?
right. Well, personally, I mean, I no longer live there, but when, every time I go back, I walk, you know, walk through Times Square and it doesn't really do anything for me. So I
Mm.
say yes. I mean, I do miss it because I mean, I didn't hang out there, but I did work at the theaters that showed Greek films on Sundays. I would, part-time, I would work there on Sundays.
Mm.
And I would always take the subway like to one stop before so that I could walk through the neighborhood and just get a sense of what the neighborhood was like. But it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't as
Mm.
though there was going to be a lot of but just the idea of being there then, and walking through and not, I mean, you felt that, you had to be careful and everything and be alert, but at the same time, you knew that it was broad daylight,
Right.
midday, so nothing was going to happen. But yeah, I think that, it's that edge that New York had, which I don't, it's not just Times Square, I think everywhere. New York has just lost that edge.
Yeah, well, people always say when New York was New York, and uh, but I mean, getting beaten up or tripping over heroin needles doesn't sound very pleasant too. But I think it's like they kind of wish that it had that edge or danger. It's like there are trade-offs to everything, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that it was, I mean, the bottom line is, I don't think people, miss the needles and the fights and that sort of thing. I think they miss the freedom that existed at that time, where
Mm,
anything goes, that
mm.
things were happening, that people were willing to experiment, and it was okay. And also, like the economics of the place allowed for more diverse people that were artists, that people who wanted to do something would come to New York.
Mm.
Now it's like impossible. It's so expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
you could live, when I was there, when I was in university, you could, like you could have an apartment and you could afford it, and it didn't take up all of your money. So people would come to New York because it was easier to come to New York. Now people are leaving New York. It's lawyers and executives and hedge funds and what have you that are living there, not artists. So that's the difference, I think.
Well, I was struck by some of the animation that we see in the documentary. Could you tell people about the animators who worked on this?
Yeah, she's Canadian,
Oh,
from Toronto.
okay.
And Abby, oh God,
Okay.
it just left my mind. I'll get it in a second.
Okay. All right.
But
Do you want to talk about
Abigail,
maybe some of the key people interviewed in the documentary, and then maybe you'll recall Abby's last name?
yes. Um, well, we have her two daughters,
Mm.
the daughter that she left in Greece that she brought to New York, and then a second daughter that she had with her second husband, um, we and her husband, and we have the grandson, um, and a granddaughter. We have some neighbors who were in Times Square and worked at other establishments close to her movie theater. Um, what else? We have her best boy. He was a Greek guy, a young Greek guy who would run all her errands. Um, that's about it. Not too many, because we really just tell the story from home videos that her daughter gave us, which are great, and the animation, which is absolutely fantastic. Like I think it makes the film, and a lot of stock footage,
Nice.
and that just gives the sense and the mood of the time.
So last year I took a film theory class on documentaries, and I got exposed to all of these manifestos. Do you read the documentary manifestos? Does it inform your filmmaking at all?
Um, no, I don't really read manifestos.
Mm,
I like listening to other filmmakers whose work I like,
mhm.
talk about how they, their process of work. Um, I mean, the only manifesto that I would say really kind of meant something to me was Victor Kosakovsky's. I don't know if you know him.
I'm not familiar.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, of him, his work. He
Uh,
did
Perhaps. I don't
Pig
know.
recently. Let's see, what else did he do? He's just done one that was at Berlin,
Oh, nice.
um, Architecton, and he has the 10, you know, 10 points for making film.
Uh,
I mean, I can, send it to you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
basically,
love it.
if you want to say something, don't say it, just show it, like,
Ah,
it's points like that that are very kind of short, and practical and obvious,
mhm.
once you read it, it's obvious that these are the, like basic, rules to documentary filmmaking.
Something actually applicable then.
Excuse me?
Well, something like a bit more practical, other than kind of like this is kind of what I'm about.
Well, it is practical, but it's
Yeah.
also very, it gets to the essence of what needs to
Yeah.
be shown in a document, or like how you go about telling a story in documentary form.
Nice. So, I wasn't around in the 70s. I was born in 1988, but these days there are Blu-ray and even 4K releases of these golden era porno movies. I've actually got a
Right.
couple on the shelf over there. Uh, have you ever are you aware of this? Do you ever scoop one up, or do you have a favorite 70s porno movie that people might enjoy?
um no, I don't really. It's
Yeah.
in
It's
my
pretty static
viewing.
cinema. Yeah.
I watched what I had to watch for the film,
Fair.
like footage that I needed to tell the story because of the films that she made. So, like I
Mm,
did take um clips from films that Shelley produced.
fair.
She also produced films, but
Okay.
they were all soft porn films. So, I can't say, I mean, they're all very funny when you look at them, I mean, especially the 60s, and I guess maybe even into the early 70s before it got more hardcore.
Yes. Many of the hardcore ones are very hateful.
Yeah, I just, it's not something that I really feel, I think just the philosophy, I think that, as, Don, one of Shelley's son-in-law says that, because he was also a director of porn films in the 60s.
Mhm.
And he said it was like off Broadway, that it was a community of people. They were all actors, or, filmmakers that needed a job, and they were who were aspiring filmmakers and
Mm.
needed to some, like work to get by, and they would work on these films. And I remember that when I was at NYU, I was in NYU graduate film school.
Yeah.
I knew people from, the film school that would work on porn films to make money, um, as camera people or whatever. So, um, it was a different community. I think it was less exploitative, because I think that they all felt that, I mean, they were still friends. Like, when I met them, and they had Don and Bondi had like an anniversary, a wedding anniversary. And you saw all these people there that were from the industry, from the porn industry.
Mm.
And it was like a family reunion. It was a different, I think they, treated each other with respect, with friendship. I mean, it was different.
Fair, yes. So how would you pitch this documentary to people who don't like or even detest pornography?
It's the most PG movie on pornography.
There you go. I think I would just from from my perspective, it's like sort of just a fertile story. It's just sort of extreme by nature, and that's kind of interesting to anyone who's sort of involved in that. And you're not, it's not like you made a porno. You're just talking about it.
Right. I mean, look, Shelley
Mm.
is a fascinating character.
Yeah.
So, as I say, it would be hard not to make an interesting film of her. I'd have to work really hard to make it uninteresting. And so, like it was a wonderful experience for me. I love New York. I, I'm kind of nostalgic of that period. Um, and it was wonderful to work in Ontario, in Toronto.
Nice.
Um, so it all worked out really well.
That's lovely. Well, Valerie, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed our
Thank
conversation
you
today.
very
Do you know
much.
what's next for you?
What's next? Yeah, but I can't talk about it yet. I'm
Oh,
still
okay. Fair
developing it.
enough.
Yeah.
But you're in the process.
Yes, yes.
Phenomenal. Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled for whatever it
Thank you
is.
very much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.